Hi everybody and welcome to the Coco and Flora podcast. My name's Eva, I'm a knitter, a stitcher and a maker at heart, and this is a chat about everything I've been making in the month of March 2024. It's the last week of March, it's 10 a.m. in the morning and weather status gloomy. I feel like I've been quite a busy bee this month. I was editing last month's podcast and thinking, wow Eva, big talk, I'm going to cast on this, I'm going to finish that, I'm going to block that, and I thought my mouth was writing cheques that my knitting needles couldn't cash, but I think I have done all of those things to show you today. So I'm going to start just briefly by mentioning the leg warmers that I was knitting. If you're particularly interested in the formulas and everything, I think the details are in February's podcast, but just a note to say that the numbers that we chose, which were basically around 52 stitches on DK weight yarn, did work out, and my eldest has sent me a little video of her wearing the leg warmers so you can see how they fit. So they were knit from Drops Daisy DK weight yarn, and I think I knit the stockinette part of them about 30 centimetres long, and then 15 rows of 2x2 ribbing at the top and the bottom. But more information on those in the last one, but just a quick note to say that formula did work out okay. So now on to a finished item that I do have here to show you, and it's my Bonjour High from Purl Soho, which is a free pattern and it's a sort of a shrug, and I have finished it. I knit this from Drops Extra Fine Merino, I think, which is a 4-ply yarn, and I held it together with a Drops kidsilk mohair in the cherry colourway. I can't remember the name of the Drops one, but it's the only plum coloured yarn that they had, and I think I knit these on 5mm needles or 6. I'll have to pop that on the screen. I knit the size 2. I think maybe I should have chosen the size 3 because I did have to add 13 extra rows of stockinette, and I did much more ribbing than the pattern calls for. I have blocked this and I sort of stretched it out to get even more length. I think I might have to put some cutaway footage in it so that you can see me standing up, but it's gone really drapey as I've blocked it. Comes down to almost waist level. A bit hard to show you here, so I might put some footage in, I think. But I really love it. I haven't tried it out yet. I've knit this to pop on in the mornings when I'm doing the college run. I spend quite a long time in the car, so this will be really nice to just put on chilly spring mornings. And I had 3 50-gram balls of the merino and 3 of the kidsilk. I've got 1 whole ball of the kidsilk mohair left, and I used most of the 3 balls, so nearly 150 grams of the merino, but I probably used maybe 120, 130 because I had enough left to crochet a rose. So I did that with the mohair held together as well, and I just put some beads inside. I think these are rose quartz beads. And I'm going to put that on so that I can have a front and a back, and I'll know what the front is. Can't remember the size of hook that I used for this. I think it might have been a 3.5 because that's about the only one I can find at the moment. And I've just put the brooch thing, hand sewn that onto the back. And while I was crocheting roses, I also used up the leftovers from the leg warmers, and I did have to add in a little bit of Drops Charisma in black as well to finish it off, and this is a larger size rose. I held this together with some pinky corally coloured mohair, and while I was crocheting it I didn't know if I liked it because the DK yarn was so thick that it wasn't making a nice uniform combination. The mohair is all over the place, and I'm still not 100% sure, but I think I love it. I think it's kind of ugly beautiful, and I really like these big garish roses. I think I'm going to make them my whole personality. So if you see someone in the street with a great big crochet rose on, it's probably me, so come and say hi. I'm going to put them on everything. I also made a smaller size one, which I prefer the bigger ones, I think, so I think I'm going to put this one on a project bag probably. This is with Drops Charisma again, but in the off-white colourway with some pearly beads in the middle. So that's my crochet roses for the month. And that's my Bonjour High. I would definitely knit this again, and it feels really nice as it's blocked out so nice and drapey, and it does feel really warm and cosy. So yeah, I'd like to knit another one of these, I think. Next I'll have to insert some more footage because I did a couple of gift knits. I knit the Little Rabbit's Bag by Jooles Hill of So Sweet Violet, and I've recorded myself talking about them before I sent them off to their recipients, so I'll pop that in now. Hi everyone, I've got a couple of little projects to show you here. These are the Little Rabbit Bag pattern by Jooles Hill of So Sweet Violet, and I've knit a couple of them from leftovers of fingering weight mini skeins mostly. So this one, these are the colours that I used in my Maxine hot water bottle. They were just 10-gram minis from Lay Family Yarns, and I had quite a bit left over from the colour work. So these four here are Lay Family Yarns. That's Bark from Hedgerow Yarns. This is the leftovers from the heels that I was knitting into the socks that I was knitting in January, and there's a Beehive Yarns purple colour on the bottom. I just found a little bit of bare yarn for the pom-pom. I think it was Cascade Heritage in the snow colourway, and I made my pom-poms by wrapping the yarn around a dining fork about 100 times, and that's made a nice size, I think, for the bags. It's got a little I-cord for the closure, which is like a drawstring, and you fold over the top and pick up stitches to make the channel to put that in. I didn't do a brilliant job of that. This pattern is written for Magic Loop 2.25mm, and I did use that size, but I don't know why, I just don't get along with Magic Loop, so I'm sure I'm missing out, but I always choose to just find the smaller circumference. So I was using 9-inch circulars for this, and I think that tiny circumference made it quite difficult to work some of the more complicated parts, so it was very messy inside. So I chose to put a fabric lining in instead, which I attached at the top with blanket stitch, and for that I used a sewing thread but in a top stitching weight, so it's just slightly thicker. So I'm kind of happy with the way that turned out. And then for the second one, these are actually the leftovers from my Polesden wrap that I'm knitting. These are Kate Selene minis, and again they're 10 grams, and I'm having 1 to 2 grams left over from each colour section that I do on my Polesden scarf. So they're much thinner stripes here, and I've put some of this lilac in every now and again to break it up. I think the lilac is from Folkestone Harbour Yarns. That was also a mini skein, and I've put a peach lining into that one, and again same thread for the blanket stitch. I've used the pink from this one as the I-cord for that one, and I used the purple down there for the I-cord in that one just to balance it out a little bit. And I think they're very cute little gifts, so I'm going to send those on their way now and send you back to the future. Bye for now. Next, on to something that I said I was going to cast on last month, and I have cast it on, and I dyed some yarn because I needed 200 grams of fingering weight yarn, and I didn't have what I had wanted, which was a bluey green sort of colour. So I dyed some yarn. I'll pop a little bit of video in there so you can see it skeined up. because I'm already quite some way into knitting it up, I cast on a love note, and here's the yarn caked up. I made a sort of greeny blue base with Kelly green and teal dyes, and then I speckled on some teal and I speckled on some green, but that spread a bit more, and although it's Kelly green, it's come out looking quite neon and I really like it. And I am holding that together with another Drops Kidsilk mohair, and this colourway is called Marzipan. And here is my love note. I really like the way this yarn is knitting up. I've cast on the size small. I would normally be medium, and the recommended ease is between 4 and 12 inches, which is quite a lot, and the small still gives me 3 or 3.5 inches of ease, and I didn't want it to be too big. I've put this onto waste yarn now so that I can show you, because it was just on a 60cm cable, so it's a bit bunched up, but also because I have reached the recommended length after the lace for the cropped style. You can do it cropped or full length, and I've tried it on, and I think I'll get a little bit extra with, I think there's a bit of short row shaping at the back to do next, and a small amount of ribbing. It's not a massive rib, it's maybe like an inch or so, but even so I think I would like it to be a little bit longer. It's I think it would be a nice length to wear with dresses and stuff, which is probably how I would wear it, but I know that I'm always kind of tugging down cropped things if they're too cropped, so I think I'll maybe just knit another 5 rows maybe before I go into the finishing off of the body. I think I will do full length sleeves if I've got enough yarn. I'll show you how much I've got left. I should have weighed it, but you know, it should be enough for the pattern. And I did all of the lace and everything in one skein, and then I started to alternate, because even though I'm holding it with the mohair, I thought it was probably a good idea, but now that's given me a bit of a conundrum, because I don't know if I'll have enough to alternate for the sleeves, because I've knit all of the lace out of that ball, and so I'll have more of this. But to be honest, and maybe I'm saying this because it looks okay because I'm alternating it, but I'm not seeing a lot of difference between the skeins, so if I do run out of one and have to just finish off with it, I think it will be okay. I did do a provisional cast on. I've never done one before, and I expended so much energy trying to avoid doing it. I was thinking, because you're supposed to do a provisional cast on, knit the body, then go back and do the rib, and I was trying to work out how I could do the rib, reverse engineer those decreases into increases, and in the end I thought this has got to be harder work than just watching a tutorial on how to do a provisional cast on. And the one that I followed was by Very Pink Knits, and it was really straightforward. I think from what she said, it's not the only way you can do a provisional cast on, but she crocheted a chain, and so there were like V stitches on the top, and when you turned it to the side there's just straight stitches, and then she just picked up knit stitches and cast on into those straight stitches, and it was really straightforward. So that was okay actually, and probably a lot easier to follow the pattern than try to work it all out myself. I'm not a very experienced garment knitter. I've done 3 lentos and a cardigan and a Tolster tee and a camisole, and that's it really. So I've not really done a lot of complicated stuff, so I'm super relieved to have got through the lace, and it's gone okay. I had a false start. I did have to go back and start again from the stockinette, because 3 different rows I got to the end of it and my count was wrong, so I don't know what I was doing wrong. But on the first row I knit 2 together and fudged it. On the second row I really knew I should be starting again, and on the third row I thought, oh come on, this is just going to get worse and worse. So it went okay the second time, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting that back on the needles now and hopefully finishing it off this month. So I should have said the love note is by Tin Can Knits, and I've got that in a sort of neon-y bag to go with the neon pops in this yarn. I really like the green, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to wear it with, so I might have to sew some green clothes so I've got something to wear it with. I did a 20-gram tester before I dyed that yarn, and I thought that this one was a little bit darker than I wanted, but I just thought I'd show you that because I do like the way it's turned out, and I'm going to knit that into my garter stitch blanket, I think. And then another mini to show you is something that I got from my youngest for Mother's Day, and it was really nice to have yarn especially chosen for me, and it was a complete coincidence that I don't think it's too dissimilar to the stuff that I was dyeing around about the same time. And this is from Dina's Home of Crafts, and it's a DK weight 20-gram mini, and there isn't a name on it, but it's colourway 182 I think, and there's Dina's card. I think it's Dina and not Dinah, and I'm going to crochet a rose out of that, I think, so that I can just keep that as one little project of its own. So I was really happy with that. Isn't it lovely? What's next? And then the other thing that I said I was going to do last time was to block my Anthology Throw so that I could talk to you about it. I knit this all throughout last year, 2023, with a 2022 advent calendar from Indie Yarn Club, and it was a yarn club that it wasn't their official yarn club, it was a scrappy one, and it was just a combination of skeins that they'd got throughout the year, experimental dyes, things like that. And I was so lucky because loads of them were pink and green, and I was also getting a club for a few months from Indie Yarn Club, so I had a few extra minis, so I was able to take ones out of the advent that I didn't want to knit into this and switch in some more blues and greens. So I've gone mostly greens, not blues and greens, greens and pinks. I've gone mostly greens, pinks, and then any neutrals and any orangey type colours I've put in. And this is the Anthology Throw by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade, and I think this was from 2022 Knit Vent, but you can buy the pattern on its own. I will have to put some footage in because it's really hard to show you, so I'll just quarter it up now and show you all the colours. This one is a regular colourway in Indie Yarn Club shop, and it's called Wink, and I really love it. And this one is called Olive You, and I really love that. Lots of them didn't have names, but some of them are regular colourways. And what I really love is the last few. I love the way those have gone together for the fancy border. I measured this and weighed it yesterday, and it weighs 440 grams and it's 60 inches in diameter, so it's quite big. I was at the beginning of the pattern, Helen puts in where she changes colour, and I was following that initially until I worked out that that was completely arbitrary and you could actually just change colour wherever you wanted to. So I had a few leftovers at the beginning that could have gone into the blanket, and I also did skip 2 or 3 rounds at the end because it gets a bit much. You don't increase gradually, you knit and knit several rounds, dozens and dozens of rounds, then you do a great big increase round, and that happens a few times over the blanket. By the time you get to about here, when you're about, I don't know, 90% done, you do this increase round that's so huge it takes you from 500 and odd stitches to well over 1100. And I was knitting on my not so trusty Knit Pro Symphonies, and I was having to sort of drag big swathes of stitches around because my cable was 150 centimetres and it wasn't long enough for all of these stitches, and my needle just straight up snapped under the strain. And it was in the middle of a lace round, and I lost 30 or 40 stitches of complicated lace work. So I tried to pick them up as best as I could. I put them on hold and ordered some metal needles, some addies, and finished off the blanket, but I was kind of, I'd not lost heart, but I was just keen to get to the end of it because I didn't want anything else to go wrong. So, but I don't think it's any the worse for having missed a few stockinette rows, and I still think that it's like nice and big and everything. But when I came to block it, I was recording the blocking for my Patreon channel, and I was looking through the camera and thinking, what's that? And I think where I'd picked up the stitches, I'd missed one, and I'd ragged this around in the bath. It's been off the needles for weeks and weeks, and there'd been this live stitch the whole time. In fact, there were two of them. There was one somewhere around here as well, and maybe that's when I changed up to a bigger cable. And so luckily, because I had those leftovers, I was able to, it had dropped down about 8 rows, I was able to pick up the stitches and then match the yarn and sort of thread it through the loop at the back of the work, and weave the ends in quite thoroughly to make sure that that doesn't drop. So I think I managed to rescue it. Isn't it lovely though? It's so bright and cheerful. I really loved getting that advent calendar, and I'm doing a payment scheme throughout this year to get a calendar from Indie Yarn Club again this year, which I'm so excited about. What else can I think to tell you? I think I went down a needle size because when I swatched, the fabric I was getting was too loose on the recommended, so maybe the recommended is 3.5 and I probably did 3.25. But there it is, probably the biggest project I've ever knit, and I really, really love it. And if you half it, it makes a really great cape. I should say that the yarn from my advent calendar is fingering weight 100% superwash merino, so a blanket was a great use for it. A little bit of crochet now. I've been doing some granny squares. I've written about this on my blog, which is free to read on my Patreon channel, because I made some handmade soap, and my sort of storage solution for keeping that by the sink is granny squares, but ours have just all disappeared into the ether, so I make them back to back. I just do a 5 round basic granny square, and then I make 2 of them, and I think you would call it a single crochet how I put them together. I'm not too sure of the terminology, but they make a really nice absorbent little mat for your soap to sit on. So I've done our bathrooms. We've got a small bathroom upstairs and a small bathroom downstairs, and they are both massively in need of renovation. They're dated. So I've done my crochet mats in the colours that I wish my dream bathrooms were. So downstairs in my lovely emerald green tiled floor bathroom, I've gone for all these rich greens. This yarn is by Yarn and Colours, and it was on sale at Lovecrafts. I wasn't supposed to be buying yarn, so I compromised by buying sale yarn. It's fingering weight mercerised cotton, and the colourways are Amazon, Peridot, Oatmeal. I think this one is just called Light Green, I'm not sure. And then my upstairs bathroom will be having pink, and we've got Girly Pink is the darkest one, Peony Pink. I'll have to put the name of the light one on the screen, and I use the oatmeal in both the pinks and the greens. So far I've only done 6, but I've got loads of yarn left to make more as these all disappear, because I like to switch these out every couple of days. I feel like they don't need switching out every couple of days, but my partner when he uses the sink he seems to splash water everywhere, so these are always wet and needing to be changed out. But if you're doing it, you'll probably only need to change them once a week or something. So yeah, that's my little granny squares. Super fun and relaxing to do, and I'm looking forward to working up the rest of the yarn into some more of those. Here's a quick look at the yarns. They were 50-gram balls and they were about £2 a ball, I think. So I've got loads and loads and loads left. And I don't know if I said, but I think I used that 3.5mm crochet hook for those. So the final thing I have to show you is actually a quilt that I have been making. I've done loads of work on it this month, and what I think I'll do, because I've got 20 different blocks to show you, is tell you all about it whilst I'm holding up the blocks to show you. So I'm making a quilt called a Dresden Quilt. It's by Melanie Traylor of Southern Charm Quilts. She has a whole series of videos for a quilt along here on YouTube, and that is so perfect for me because I'm new to all this, so it's really lovely to have someone show you how to do things efficiently and cut all the fabric in one go and just do things in a lot more of a smooth way than I would do as an amateur, not really knowing the best methods. And I don't know if it's still free, but the pattern was free to download when you joined this quilt along. The quilt along is long finished. I'm a bit slow to keep up, but I keep going back and referring to the videos as to how to do it. You have 20 blocks with Dresden plates on, and then you also have, I'm just seeing if I've got one here. No, I haven't. So I think there's 40 blocks in this quilt. 20 of them are just plain where you've stitched 4 squares together, and then the other 20, which are arranged scattered throughout the quilt, are Dresden plates. So the fabric that I have used is all from Ruby Star, even the background ones, except for this plain one, which is a Kona cotton in the bone colourway. But all of these fabrics are Ruby Star. I got loads and loads of remnants, and then I bought a couple of charm packs to do the centres. And I've got all of my 20 blocks done. You have to stitch the Dresden plates together and then stitch around the edges to get them onto your backing blocks, and then you attach the central circles with heat and bond, which is basically like double-sided sticky tape but for sewing. And then when you get to the quilting process, you have to somehow decide how to stitch on to secure those on, because the heat and bond is just like a temporary fix. So I've done some of the plates as recommended in the pattern, which is choosing 2 different fabrics and alternating them. And then some of them I've done a scrappy where I've put all of the fabrics in. I think I've got maybe 5 scrappy ones, and then the rest of them I've just done different combinations of the 2 fabrics. All of these fabrics are not from the same range from Ruby Star, but I feel like their colours are really distinctive, so they go together. I was a little bit unsure about adding any of the green in for the central circles, because there's no green in any of the Dresden plate fabrics that I've chosen, but in the end I decided that there's so many different fabrics that crazy scrappy would be okay. So, oh gosh, I thought I had about 2 more to go. I've got about 4 more to go. So it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed sewing them up. It's not been in any way as difficult as I thought it would be, being shown how to do it. Just, it's really easy to follow the steps. So the next thing that I have to do is to just make sure that all of these square blocks are trimmed up nice and evenly, and then decide on a layout and attach them all together. So the next time you see it, hopefully it will be as a big quilt top. and then I'll have to sort out some backing and some wadding. I think it's going to be quite huge because there's 40 of these, and these measure, I think maybe 12 inches. I'll put it on the screen, I'll measure it afterwards and put it on the screen how much they measure, but yeah, I think it's going to be quite a big quilt, but I'm really enjoying working on it. And I really love making Dresden plates, so it's been really nice to work out how to make them efficiently by chain stitching all of the pieces and then doubling them up and chain stitching all of those, where I would have been sat there with each individual blade joining them all together very slowly. So yeah, I'm learning loads from joining in with this, and I can't wait to show you when it's all joined together. So I think that's everything that I have been working on this month. Do stick around if you want to see some rare footage of March, and if you want further content from me, please feel very welcome to check out my Patreon channel, link below, details on the screen. You can join for free and read my blog, and there will be occasional short videos on the free level. And if you want even more content, you can join my Flora tier and see much longer behind the scene vlogs of my making. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you loads of fun with your making. Until next time, bye for now.
I'm not doing landscape, that'll be a problem. But
Can you do it then?